Out of drag, my name is Cassandra. In drag, my name is Luc Ami, based in Chicago. Uh, and yeah, I I created the name originally I thought my drag would be like a French guy. And then I realized that I don't know any French, and it's like, I don't want to do songs in French, but the name still worked. So I was like, I'm gonna stick with that. And it's like a pun because we say it really fast. You're like, oh, look at me. No, look at you. So yeah, that's where the name came from. It's funny the amount of people who, it takes them a minute to get the pun though. There was someone that I've known for 3 years and they just got it like a month ago. And I was like, oh my God. It's sticking now. I was like, I don't want to change it. I was like, this works. Like,
Well,
it's happening.
I like it, yeah. And I was wondering because I didn't know what where the name came from, and so that's cool. That's a good story. I like that. How long have you been doing this?
So I say like officially, I've been doing this for 4 years. I kind of like played around with different like personas and stuff like that for a little bit. But like 4 years ago when I officially was like, okay, I'm sticking with this name. I'm sticking with this persona. Cause like in college I played around, I like had like a drag queen persona called Ibiza Tiza. And then I also had another drag king named Justin Wright. And I kind of merged the two because I was like, I don't like switching back and forth and stuff like that. So I kind of merged the aesthetics. So that's why my drag is, like I'm a drag king technically, so like I'm emulating sort of masculine things, but still kind of effeminate. So it's not like fully like super like masculine, like man kind of impersonation. Like I'm not doing like male impersonation, which a lot of drag kings do. I'm saying thing like drag queens, a lot of like female impersonations, and mine's kind of like a mixture. I used to do a lot more like special effects makeup when I was in school, for like student film stuff like that, and I missed that. And so I was like, I need to find a way to incorporate all of it. So this drag is sort of a way for me to do the more creative makeup, and like do the more creative things, and still play around with that art form in the same sense.
We should definitely do some kind of like horror short film or something. And you could do some makeup and you can even act in it if you wanted to or whatever. I got a
I'd be down for that.
So
yeah, in college I used to do all the really gory stuff. Like I loved all the I did a lot of like injury makeup, so a lot of like gashes and wounds and like decaying skin, like all that kind of stuff is like right up my alley. Halloween is definitely my favorite time of year for all that spooky stuff, so I'm definitely in. Yeah.
How did you get into drag? Like, do you have any drag parents, or like is there someone that you look up to?
Yeah, so I it's funny, so like at the school I went to, they offered a bunch of makeup classes. The actors were required to take it, but I was an acting major. Anyone else who's not an actor, they can take it if they want to. And I knew that the advanced makeup class had a lesson on drag makeup. So I was like, I'm gonna take the whole year of makeup to get to that one class. Because I knew they brought in like a drag queen to teach it. And then funny enough, I went through the whole course. And then the day that person was supposed to come in, the drag queen didn't come in because they were actually on RuPaul's Drag Race that year. And I was like so pissed because I was like, I'm gonna take all the classes to get to that one class, and then it wasn't there. But I was really interested in it, so I started looking more into like how to do the makeup after that. And so I was like, okay, since I can't learn with that one person, I'm gonna still look it up. And then I started diving more into it. I was like, oh, actually, this is really cool. And started like, and I had done a lot of face painting when I was a kid. I do have a drag family. I actually used to backup dance for my drag mom when I turned 21. A friend of mine, I used to not even do drag, just backup dance for her and do choreography and whatnot. And then she sort of started teaching me a lot about drag that way. And then when I wanted to do it myself, she was like, okay, like, clearly I've been here for your development. I'm willing to take you under my wing and help you out. Her name is Coco Chanel. She doesn't work in Boys Town too much. She works mostly like on the north side of Chicago. but she's been doing drag for like 13 years, something like that. Like she's been doing drag for a while, and just has a lot of experience and has a lot of understanding of like performing and how to do makeup and whatnot. And she's sort of pushed me a lot. A lot of times she'll give me like, she'll watch a TV show and be like, oh, there's a really cool character I saw. I want you to try doing that makeup and stuff like that. And like giving me sort of prompts me like, I need you to, because she knew that I was definitely more into the creative head and makeup and not like the full like male or female impersonation. So she kept giving me sort of projects to try out and stuff like that. And just also just sort of giving me like a family in Chicago, because I'm not from Chicago. I'm originally from Virginia. So moving here, kind of finding, I feel like when you move to a new city, like finding your people and sort of finding people you work with and people that support you and connect with. And so she was a lot of that like kind of person that, you know, if I was ever really broke one day and need some food, she's like, I got you, like here's lunch and stuff like that. So it's sort of been building up that support system or like giving advice. So we just kind of naturally grew into like an actual sort of family away from home kind of situation. But it's funny because our drag is very different though. So actually like in terms of like visually what I look up to, she's not sort of inspiration for that. In terms of like I tend to look at a lot more there's a lot more I think alternative artists I really look up to. There's the first person I saw in Chicago that really sort of inspired me was Hanky Punks. She does a lot of like sort of kind of not exactly do her makeup's still different than mine, but a lot of really colorful mugs and like really kind of trippy colors and like trippy makeup designs and like really creative outfit pieces. We do a lot of like, they'll dye a lot of outfits and like fray a lot of their costumes and all these really cool textures and stuff like that. So that's something that really appealed to me. So this play with, there's a lot of color they play with and a lot of texture and like the shape of how they construct their outfits and stuff like that is really cool. And so that's sort of what really kind of inspired me. Cause I used to not play with color. You've seen the stuff I've done, like it's usually really colorful. So I didn't really play with color a lot until I saw what they were doing, and I was like, oh, okay, that's up my alley. I was like, I love color. I love like really bright, trippy sort of patterns, stuff like that, and that really spoke to me.
What is your favorite part about drag? The makeup?
Yeah, I enjoy being able to play around with makeup. I think it's interesting because like I went to theater school, but I used to act before that, and I don't really like acting in plays stuff like that, but I still like performing, which is why I think I enjoyed backup dancing for my drag mom so much, because like I enjoy performing. I just don't want to learn lines and like be in a play, and I can't sing, so I can't be in a musical. But I still missed that performance aspect, so I enjoy the aspect of it, and I enjoy being able to play with makeup and be creative in that way. And I do a lot, like I create a lot of my own like outfits, stuff like that. So I enjoy like physically creating things, especially like when I was in middle school and high school. I used to just build a lot of like, I used to be really into building a lot of props for school shows and directing stuff. So I enjoy physically be able to create stuff, as well as I enjoy being my own boss essentially. So it's, you know, because it's like the other day, it's like, it's my art form. And so like I'm curating what I want to happen on stage, and so the experience I want to have people go through. And so it's, you know, obviously at the end of the day, like when there's other shows, people are booking you, and so they're technically your boss, but it's nice to be able to be my own boss and sort of decide what I want to do with my art. Because I think that's something that really was frustrating for me in college when I was doing makeup for other people. It was like, it was really fun doing all these special effects makeup, but it was also, I'm doing the makeup to fulfill someone else's vision of what they want to happen on screen. So it's like, you know, it's like, oh, cool, I might have a really cool idea, but they're like, yeah, but I didn't want that kind of like wound for that, or like that's not the hairstyle I want for that character. I was like, okay, well, I mean, obviously it's their production, like whatever they want goes, but also, oh, I forgot
you wanted more of that creative freedom, you know?
Yeah,
do your
definitely.
own thing. I feel that. I get that.
Yeah. And I think especially for any artist, it's always weird when like you're creating stuff for like for someone else, because you're like, obviously like I want them to be happy with the product, but also you're like, but also I want to be happy with the product too. And so it's finding that middle ground is hard, and it's a little easier, at least I find with drag, to be able to have more of that creative freedom, because at the end of the day, you know, it's whatever I want it to be. So I enjoy the creative freedom. I enjoy being able to perform. I enjoy being able to play with makeup. I think that's especially why I enjoy them. I sort of describe myself as like a drag alien, so I enjoy sort of the otherworldly aspect of it, because I can play with it a lot more. That's something I didn't enjoy as much with male impersonation, just because like most guys don't really wear eyeshadow or like a crazy makeup, you know, like in their everyday life. So it's, you know, so when you're impersonating that, you don't have as much to play with. And there are people who do that really well and like find creative ways to change little things about it. But that just wasn't my thing. I just wasn't connecting with it. But I enjoy doing stuff like this, where it's like I'm pink and blue and green and purple and all that. It's interesting because like now that obviously bars aren't open and stuff like that, it's a lot of drag has happened online, because I do enjoy sort of that interaction with the audience. And it's interesting being in the day and age where you can't do that in the same way, and so figuring out, I think I feel like a lot of people who do drag have kind of fallen out of love with it now that they do it digitally, because they can't physically interact with people. Whereas, I mean, obviously, like if there's a show online, you can chat with people in the chat as the show's going, but it's different than when you're physically in the bar, like drinking a drink with someone and like talking to them, and, you know, like having that interaction is really interesting. But I definitely enjoy that part of human interactions, like hanging out with people and like talking to them and being in that space together.
Anything where people are performing, like music, you know, drag, you know.
Yeah, especially because I mean, even especially like concerts, like that's something I loved about concerts, was like going into like the physical feeling of being in a crowded like venue and like being around other, like, you know, like just something, experience of experiencing a concert with other people in that space. So it's interesting seeing, yeah, like you're saying, like people, how they're trying to find ways to sort of still emulate that experience without obviously getting people sick. But, you know, it's definitely a weird adjustment, because I think that's one of the big things, especially like when I was in theater school, like the big thing that people were talking about, like the difference between theater and film is that like you get that feeling of being in person and experiencing that, you know, that performance in that one time. And so it's like, you know, now with like digital drag, it's like I can film something, people can watch it numerous times, and so you don't have that spontaneous energy, but also you can do more things they wouldn't be able to do in the physical venue. You know, like I can't, at least I don't have the budget to have all the special effects and like crazy lighting that I want to have in the bar, whereas I can do that in a video with editing and stuff like that. So it's interesting, you know, you lose some of that, you gain some other stuff with it by going digital, but it definitely is a weird shift. I'm interested to see like once things open back up, like how that's going to change in person.
Yeah, things are just different. And, you know, I mean, everybody's adjusting, and
yeah,
that's how it's going to be. I mean, that's how life is, you know? So,
yeah.
And I do enjoy, you know, the whole couch tour thing and being able to just watch that from the comfort of my home. But also
Right.
at the same time, I can't take pictures and do video, you know, without being there. So,
Yeah.
you know, I miss it. I really do. I miss it a lot.
I feel you. On Twitch, my username is the same as my Twitter name. It's Alien King Luke. I just started streaming myself recently. So like a lot of drag shows have gone on Twitch, just because I think the biggest thing is like people, once bars close, people are like, all right, shoot, there's a lot of people who perform drag full time, like this is their only source of income. So they're all kind of really screwed, because it's like there's no health insurance, there's no job security. Every gig that you get paid is like you get paid based off of like the bar sales and like cover fees, stuff like that. So it's like if you're online, you're like, shoot, how do I make money? And so a lot of people are like, oh, so doing digital shows, thing of like streaming, you know, footage and stuff like that. So a lot of shows have moved on there. Twitch is it's weird. It's like once you get it, it works really well. It's just there's so many components. Like I've had a lot of trouble at first kind of realizing that like you know, my Wi-Fi was good. The computer system I have is not the best. So like right now my streams are not fully what I want them to be until I get a new computer, but I also gotta save up for that. But I've been doing a lot of shows on there, but I'm trying to stream my own content just because it is also another source of income once you get the stream running, because like they give you ad revenue and people can subscribe to you and like tip you and stuff like that on there. And it's been actually really, I think Twitch is the best platform for drag right now and online, just because it opens up a much wider audience of people to check out stuff. Like I feel like I've been able to connect with a lot more artists from around the country than I would have just from like doing shows just here in Chicago. And I think a lot of people bring really unique content. So like I've been trying to do a lot of sort of showing how I create stuff. So like I usually like the outfit pieces and the head pieces I make, I will like do tutorials and show how I've made it on the stream, as well as like doing stuff like this where I'm like painting on stream. I feel like it's a lot easier to be on Twitch and to build a following without having like a huge like Twitter or Instagram presence, if that makes sense. But I feel like because the chances of someone just happening upon your stream are a lot greater. You know, I was thinking, like I feel like a lot of people I watch that aren't drag performers, like I'll look on their Instagram page, they have like 2 posts, or on their Twitter they have like 3 tweets, but they have like 10,000 followers on Twitch, and you're like, oh, okay, like you really don't need the 2, which is kind of, I think it definitely doesn't hurt to have that social media presence to boost it up, but I see a lot of people, it looks like they can be successful without it, which is really cool too, because I do find social media exhausting.
I'm definitely, I'm on Twitter way too much. I probably need to, I try not to be on there, but right now I don't have a job, so like,
yeah, you're like,
what else am I gonna do? Like,
yeah, and it's definitely, it's one thing where it's like, it's really easy. Like I definitely done before, looking up and like, let me like see what someone responded to something, and all of a sudden I'm like on there for an hour, and I'm like, oh my God, I just like got like sucked in, just scrolling on stuff, and all of a sudden you're like,
yeah.
what like vortex did I just get sucked into?
Yeah, you fall into that tweet hole, and then it's like, oh shit, yeah, it's like a K-hole. Like,
truly, and you're just like, you come out and you're like, where am I? Who am I? Yeah, especially I feel like, at least with the drag scene, people, I think people tend to air a lot more drama on Twitter. And so sometimes I'm like, there's not even drama involving me. I'm like searching, I'm like, ooh, what is someone supposed to say about something else? And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, I have like fully delved into a thread of like so completely someone else's business, just because people keep like responding to threads and like getting into each other's business. I'm like, this is too much. But it's weird. So it's like I have like a love-hate relationship. I'm like, it's great for promoting yourself on social media, but also it's horrible because you get sucked into so many other things. And like, yeah, it's a weird thing of like wanting to pay attention to it, but not so much that you like can't do anything else. Okay, I definitely think there's some people who like just have a little bit too much free time on there and are just kind of destructive just because they don't have an outlet to helpfully get rid of that destructive behavior. And you're like, okay, I need you to figure out something else.
Yeah, I try and not take it too seriously, you know, like, and
I mean, I think that's what's great about digital drag is you get exposed to a lot of people. I think it's also important then if you're exposed to people to really like, if you like someone's number, like talk about it. Like if you like someone's like picture, like talk about, like boost it up, just because that does help those people who don't get as much visibility or might be getting less engagement because something's going on with the app. It's like it does go fine. I think not everyone thinks about that or thinks about how they can be helping other people and help build up like the community as a whole. Because yeah, it just makes me really upset when I see like really talented people not be seen, but then there's people who like are kind of doing the bare minimum, and I'm like, y'all aren't even like pushing yourself, and like you're getting a lot of acclaim. So it's a weird balance of like making sure people aren't getting drowned out by mediocrity. So the weird thing is like it's like even if people are employed, we're all like making less money than we would have. So it's like I think someone made a joke that like it's like everyone's just sending the same $5 around. It's like everyone's just like you know what I mean? Like everyone's just like tipping the same amount to each other and like, oh, you tipped me last week and I'm tipping you back this week. It's like, it's the same.
Right.
It's like, it's hard to even really, yeah, it's almost like it's just like, it's hard to support your friends when you're like, I'm also not making that much money. So like, I can't really be giving you the money. So like, at least I could just share or like talk you up to other people, but I can't really like, physically help you pay rent or pay your bills, which I know is what everyone needs is like rent paid, they need their bills paid, they need like food and like getting around, and that's what's hard. It's like, ooh, I can only do so much, you know. And,
you know.
Yeah.
So and like we've already talked about, you know, you can only do so much on social media, but at the same time, you know, it can be toxic and you can spend too much time on there. And I wish there was a better way to, I guess, promote other people and yourself without all the BS that goes on with social media. I don't know if that makes sense, but, or if that's even possible.
I feel that. And I think especially, it's at least in this vaccine, it's weird. But yeah, I feel like I definitely felt more like I had a need to please people when I was going to things in person, because I was like, okay, I'm going to physically see that person. And I feel like I'm not good at hiding how I feel people in my face. So like, if I don't like you, I'm going to physically be like, you know, so it's like, it's a little, you know, so it was like really hard. I was like, okay, I really got to be careful to like not make a face to certain people just because I don't like them. And now I'm like, actually, I don't have to worry about that. I could just not interact with them online and like be fine. And I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about like pretending I like this person. I can just not interact with them at all, and it'll be great. It's a weird thing, but I kind of enjoy it because I'm like, I can like I'm like kind of be in my own world a little bit more and be like, whatever, like the people I care about, the people are the people I care about. If not, whatever. Like I don't wish ill will on anyone. I'm just kind of like, whatever. I don't need to interact with you, and I think that's definitely, because I'm not crazy about like drama per se, and so like I think that's helped me a lot, and that's why I get frustrated whenever I do get stuck in something, and I'm like, I don't want to be part of the drama. And like, it's still happening. Just because naturally, I mean, anytime you have any art form, people putting themselves in line. Cause I think drag is, you know, since it's a performative art, people are being vulnerable to creating something, they're putting themselves out there. So like, people are obviously going to feel protective of themselves, and then as a result, protective of people that they care about. But yeah, it's hard navigating, not getting too personal about stuff, but also being personal enough to like connect with people. And I think especially a lot of the numbers that I create are, half of them are usually based on something usually personal or a personal feeling. So it's like hard to keep putting that out there and then also not get too hurt. Like if something doesn't get a lot of views, so I'm like, oh, whatever, like I'm then creating it for me. It's a bonus that people like it, but like at the end of the day, I'm creating it for me, whether they like it or not. At the end of the day, like I had to be happy with the end product more so than anyone else.
Right.
And same with the interaction with people. It's like at the end of the day, I had to be happy with like my interactions. So like if I'm happy with how I interact with people, that's what I care about, and not like I can't stress too much about what everyone else is feeling. But yeah.
Besides drag, what have you been doing during quarantine to stay busy?
I feel like because I work at night, and also a lot of drag happens at night, I feel like I don't get to enjoy a lot of like the city. So I've been trying to actually like social distantly try to like actually go out and like enjoy the air and like go out and sort of discover parts of the city that I haven't done as much anymore. I feel like I did a lot of that when I first came to Chicago, of like going a lot and like going to new neighborhoods and like trying out new food and stuff like that. And I haven't really been able to do that as much. Especially I feel like the nightlife here, it's really easy to get sucked in of like feeling like you always need to be out and like always need to be doing something. And so it's draining a lot. Like especially like when bars are open, I felt like any day that I wasn't working or in a show, I was probably out seeing another show. And so I was like, you think about it, I was like, okay, I was probably out like at least 6 days a week doing stuff. And it's like, that's just exhausting. And it's like, also, it's like, I don't need to go to every single show. I hate missing out on stuff. So I'm like, oh man, I missed out on that thing. So I have to go to every single thing. And I'm like, I think quarantine has helped me realize, I'm like, I don't need to absorb every single piece of content that's out there. I think it also is nice having digital shows because it's like you can go back and watch something, or let's say like I don't want to watch the entire show, but I know I want to watch one person's number. I can just wait till they post it the next day on Instagram. I'm like, okay, great. Or like wait till they post on YouTube and let's watch that one number. I'm like, I can still absorb the content I want to absorb, but I don't need to like stress myself out feeling I need to like see every single thing and like go to every single show and like tip every single person. I'm like, no one's got money for that. No one's got time for that. Like,
Right.
It's exhausting. And also it's like, I'm not making like buku bucks. So it's like, I can't be out there like doing that and like buying drinks every single night. Like that adds up. And like, yeah, finding ways to not
That's
use every single dollar that I have. Yeah.
No, I get that. I get that. Besides like doing drag full time or like special effects makeup, what's your dream job?
I really do enjoy sort of creating experiences for people. Like I tried to do it a little bit with before COVID at Berlin, creating shows where it's sort of like you come in and my idea is that like you come into a space and like you're stepping into a whole other world and like you're able to interact with this, all the set pieces, the people are interacting with you. Like it's a very all-encompassing kind of experience. And I want to create more of those kind of spaces involving like drag and various performance art. That doesn't always have to be drag, but I really do enjoy doing that. And I enjoy doing it with drag because it was cool to sort of meld that world of drag and performance art together. And so I want to sort of explore more doing that and sort of creating like immersive pieces and more performance art. Like I don't know if I'll always be doing drag. I do really enjoy it and I do want to continue building it up. But I don't think it's always going to serve like every single immersive art idea that I have. But I do like the idea of creating the spaces for people to experience something sort of out of body for them. Like I think that's something I really enjoyed is those art exhibits I've gone into where I feel like it tapped into every single one of my senses, and so like you're feeling things, you're seeing things, you're smelling things, like everything about it is really cool. And I think that's something I want to create more once I have more of the money to do so and the means and resources to do so, is create those kind of really cool experiences. Because yeah, I feel like this is sort of cliche, because I feel like everyone who like does psychedelics does this, but like wanting to recreate that experience. But I want to create that experience with people where they don't have to take those drugs to experience it. I think that's what psychedelics really are. All they're doing is just helping you tap into like more of your brain. And so like I don't think that like, nor do I think everyone should. Like I think definitely it's just some people who just should not be taking like acid or whatever. Like you probably should not be locked into like your brain for 13 hours like that. Like, or like you probably shouldn't be like, there's some people who just shouldn't be experiencing that, like especially like high anxiety. I was like, you probably should not be in that experience. But I want to create something like that, something that feels like that, where you feel like you're tapping into like a deeper sort of surrounding yourself without physically needing to take acid or take shrooms. And like I want the experience of people without having to do that. And if you do it, great. I won't promote it. I won't require anyone to take it. But if you are, awesome, probably will be an great experience. I enjoyed those, really fun. I think that's what I enjoy about stuff like that, is like that feeling of like, oh, okay, like I like, you know, music sounds really cool, and like I'm seeing certain textures I didn't see before, and like I'm seeing certain patterns I didn't see before, and like thinking about things I didn't think about before, and stuff like that I think is really cool. And so that's what I love to create for people, is like, I think that's what a lot of immersive performances do, is create that kind of experience where you're like, you're hearing things a different way and you're seeing things a different way, and so like that. So I think that's what I would love to create in the future, is more of those experiences, to kind of recreate a psychedelic experience without needing psychedelics. That way no one can put me in jail for any illegal drug use.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you just want to create something and create something that you love, or
Yeah.
that you can feel, something that you can relate to, something that
Mm-hmm.
other people can relate to.
I really disliked about the drag scene when I first started was that like I would go to events and they had, and like all the hosts would just interact with their friends. They wouldn't talk to anyone else in the space. And so like if you didn't know anyone, you just felt like really alone and like isolated. And so I was like, I want to create spaces where like you can go by yourself and have a great time and you interact with stuff like that. Or you can go with friends and you have, even more fun time, but you don't need to like to be with people to feel included in the space. And I think that's something that's really cool, is like being able to build that connection with people that you may not know and break down that barrier of like, 'cause I think that's the problem. A lot of things, drag people just are clicky because they're like nervous to interact with one another. And it's like breaking down that like nervousness and just being like, let's create spaces where we don't feel like we need to be defensive and on edge and just exist with one another. I think it's really cool. And I think a lot of the interactive art spaces I'm trying to create lean towards that, of like creating those kind of spaces where you don't feel like you need to know certain people in the space in order to have a good time and to have fun. From a money standpoint, it's just smart, but also like just in terms of like a community building experience, like I think it's worthwhile to think about how to curate spaces where people feel safe and welcome to come into and like can interact with one another. Yeah. So I'm excited to be able to get back to that at some point someday. And I think also finding ways to do that online. I think that's something that's obviously been really big with online shows, is figuring out how to create that club experience from home. And like it's interesting noticing, like depending on what show you watch, like some shows, like the host is really good about making sure that the chat is really interactive and like really welcoming, and whereas other ones are not as focused with like the audience watching. So it's interesting seeing who's like paying attention to that and who isn't, and sort of figuring out ways to build it up, which is why I really enjoy about my Twitch stream, is like, even though it's still starting out, it's kind of small, like the people that I do have there are starting to, I have people who are starting to kind of regularly come back to it, and sort of know that they're coming back to a space where like they feel like they're being interacted with and like engaged with. I think I noticed the same thing on Twitch, is like there's certain streamers that like they're just here, they're like, I'm playing my game and that's it, like whether you talk to me or not in the chat, I'm not gonna respond to it. Whereas other people who are really like engaging people and they're like, yeah, like tell me about your day, like what did you do today, and like asking things about them and like building actual friendships with people they're in their chat, because they're like, you're watching me for however many hours, like least I could do is get to know you and stuff like that. So like it's really interesting to see that. And I think it's cool because I think Twitch offers a lot of features that are really, even if it's not verbal, there's really fun ways to interact with the audience than you might have like on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter and stuff like that. So yeah, so I really hope that even when things open up again, we still have some online performances, just because I think it is a great way to keep building up a community and building up an audience base that's actually invested in you.
Well, it's nice having online shows, because say we're in Chicago and there's a show in New York that you want to see,
mm-hmm.
but you can't afford to fly out there,
right.
pay for a place to stay. So that's what's kind of nice about things that are online, but also at the same time, I need that physical. We need physical shows back. So
yeah, I definitely want to balance. Like I think it's great, because I feel like I've been booked with people that normally I would never been able to be booked with, because they wouldn't have been able to like fly me out to certain places, or like I feel like I'm like getting my grounding, I'm still just not at a place with this. I would have like been able to be on the same roster as certain people, just in terms of like where they are in their career and where I am. But it's really exciting to have the opportunity that I wouldn't be able to otherwise. But also I'm definitely looking forward to being able to be in a physical space and like have that back again. So it's sort of about, like, I would love to in the future have a combination of both. It's like being able to have shows in person again, but also to have online shows where I can be booked with people from New York or booked with people from LA or booked with people from, like, I don't know, England or whatever, and like know that like we could all be in the same show, and that's equally as valid as being in the show with people in your city.
Where do you see yourself 2 years from now? Like, any short-term goals or dreams?
Yeah, I mean, one of my goals before COVID was to travel more with drag, uh, that's gonna be a little bit up in the air, obviously, with how things go. But I do hope that we'll be able to open up. I was like, let me paint a little faster. I realized I'm like taking a long time. But I was like, I hope that we'll be able to open things up again, and like I'll be able to, cause I do want to physically go to other cities. I think it's really, half the reason I wanted to do that was to be able to network and know other people from other areas. So I think I have started to accomplish that with being able to do digital shows and be able to be booked by people in other cities, which is nice. But I'm hoping to be able to physically travel to other cities. Like, I love traveling. I just usually can't afford it. So I'm like, if someone pays me to do it,
right,
we're good. So I get other people to pay me to travel to other countries and other cities would be great. I'd love to travel. I'd love to travel abroad and be able to do drag in other countries, and also just to be able to experience drag in other countries. So I'm hoping that that's definitely a thing I can accomplish in the next couple of years. I think I've been able to do a lot so far, like in terms of like I've been trying to be really creative for like the effects I want to create with the numbers I want to do, but I do want to be able to have more than means to create more sort of graphic effects with the videos I'm doing, as well as just like I would love to actually go to school. So like I can do like very basic prosthetics and like special effects makeup, but I want to be able to do like the really heavy duty prosthetics and stuff like that. So I would love to be able to go back to school for that. A lot of the really heavy duty things you need like special ovens for, and like you need special studio spaces because like these are materials you shouldn't really be breathing in normally like in your house. So like having access to those materials and then be able to work with those things, it's just a little bit harder to get into that business when you don't have a license in it, or in like when you don't have as many connections in it. So the things I want to create, I enjoy piecing together and kind of figuring out myself, and do a lot of like DIY. I'm like, I'm gonna get a lot of things in the dollar store and figure it out. But I do want to kind of figure out a deeper level, like, okay, how do I actually make something that I know is gonna last, not just for that one performance, but it's gonna actually last for me for like years. I still pride myself on being a very DIY and a very like, you don't need all the money in the world to create good art, but also I do want to be able to build myself up and be able to learn more professional ways of creating certain things. So that's where I see myself, is hopefully learning how to do those things and be able to do them in a more global sense. So the goal.
I feel that that's relatable, because like I feel like I'm similar the same way, like with my art and the way that I want to express and create things. I like to do it on as little budget as possible, just because I don't have any money.
Right.
At the same time, it would be nice to have like a big budget for expensive equipment and things that I have
right.
on, you know, my toy list, like
exactly.
that I can't afford right now and probably won't be able to afford anytime soon, but that's why it's, you know, that's on my list of toys. But
right.
yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, and you got to do it with what you have.
Definitely.
Like, because that's where it all started, right? Like,
right. And I think that's what I enjoy about, you know, yes, I don't have as much money as I want to be able to do the things I want to do. Like, I think it's forced me to be more creative, because I'm like, okay, I don't have, you know, $10,000 and I don't have all these really expensive things. What can I do with the money I do have to create that? So like I want to hold on to that sense of creativity, but like that's why I would love to like have more money to do the things I'm doing creatively, just in a bigger sense. So it's like, okay, like great, I'm just as creative, but now I can have a much bigger budget to do the things I want to do. Like I would love in the future to be able to have that. It's always hard with art because it's like any art form is not a huge money making thing, but it's like fulfilling to the soul and like what's driving you. So it's like finding that balance of like, okay, how do I fund the things I want to do, but also like make sure that I'm having time to do the things I want to do. Is a weird balance. So obviously it's competitive, but like I'm, you know, reminds me doing it because you enjoy it, not because you're trying to beat out someone else. You know, it's so weird when we put money on art, because then now it's like, okay, I'm now creating something, but also have to like try to get enough people to want to pay money for it. It's like, it's just a weird balance. But yeah, I think always trying to work towards a goal where like you can do the things you want to do without having to worry about as many of those factors that can dilute it. You know, so that thing of like, do I do a number that I know is going to get more tips, or do I number that I know is more artistically fulfilling?
Yeah, it's hard to find that, you know, that narrow ground, I guess. But at the end of the day, as an artist, that I guess golden idea or that money making idea is to find something where you can, you know, do what you love and, you know, express yourself with at the same time somehow make money off of that and hopefully help other people out. Does that make sense? You know?
Yeah, very that.
But I think that's what a lot of people are looking to find, unless you are extremely talented with whatever your medium is, your craft. And you know, there's a lot of people out there who are good enough to, you know, just sell their work, or you know, their phone is ringing because they want to work with so and so. You know, they want this drag queen or drag king to, you know, perform at this show, whatever the case may be.
And so I'm excited to keep learning new skills and figuring out new ways to create the visions that I have inside my head and sort of help have them happen on stage. So yeah. Okay, I'm almost done with this actually. I was like, I'll put a weight on for y'all so you get the full look.
Cool.
It's funny, the one problem is like, since I have such colorful mugs, I had to like paint the edge of the wig always to like be the same color, but I think I got the silver pink already in the mugs. It should be okay.
Looks good to me. Damn. Oh.
Oh, look, it's got a little messy up here. Well, there we go. We got most of the mug there. Ta-da! I know, like I went from a human to a very colorful little Smurf here.
Damn, I love it. This is cool.
I know, I love this wig a lot. I was like, this coat. I've been buying a lot of like really cheap, like $15 wigs off of Amazon. Having friends try it out for him. Like, this wig looked kind of gross at first, and now they're like, I got you. I'll curl it and everything. I'm like, oh, it's good now. I was like, this is a good $15 I spent. Again, don't spend a lot of money to make it look good. Just gotta get people to know what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think I paid more than like $20 for a wig. I was like, I'm not gonna get the Party City wigs, but I will still spend the same amount of money as I would for a Party City wig. But I guess to say it once more, I am Cassandra, aka Luc Ami, and I am a drag king in Chicago.
All right, cool. I'm gonna end this call, but stay safe and thanks again, and I'll see you soon.
Likewise, see ya.
Take it easy.
The Urban Earworm.com